Welcome to Aspire to Lead, where we empower educators and school leaders to grow, inspire, and thrive. I'm your host, Joshua Stamper, author, speaker, and leadership coach, bringing you conversations that spark transformation, challenge the status quo in education, and equip you to make a lasting impact on your campus or in your district. For more information and resources, visit joshstamper.com as we're looking to ascend to new leadership heights together. Welcome back, Aspire Leaders. I am so excited for my guest because I got to see her in person at the NCMLE conference, and you got a little taste of the conversation that we're going to have today because we had a conversation and Gretchen was a part of this wonderful bonus series that we did with NCMLE, and Gretchen Bridgers is a phenomenal educator, leader, and speaker, and it was just an honor to see her in person and now to bring her back for a full episode. So with that, Gretchen, thank you so much for being on Aspire to Lead.
Oh, hello, everybody. Thanks, Josh, so much for allowing me to come on and extend our conversation a little bit. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, you were one of the few local speakers at this event, which is so weird, right? Typically, that's not the case, but we had so many speakers flying in and being a part of this beautiful conference. But for yourself, it was great just to see your book, learn about your podcast, about all the work that you're doing, and then, of course, being able to sit down and have a short conversation. And I was so just thrilled with all the things that you're doing that I wanted to bring it back. So I'm excited to learn more about what you're doing in the world of education. So if you wouldn't mind, let's start there. If you'll share about your educational leadership journey.
Oh, sure. So I taught second, third, and fifth. And my story is probably similar to many of you. I had help in the classroom my first 3 years, a great mentorship program. The problem, though, and I didn't know it at the time because I was new, is that she taught a different grade level, which meant she was down a different hall. So naturally, who am I asking my questions to? My team. And without knowing it, because they're lovely humans, I was burdening them. I was overwhelming them because I was so new and just trying to figure out, how do you operate in a school building? But also, how do I teach something? And eventually we realized this partnership is not going to be effective because the person assigned to me can't quite get to me when I really need it. But also I was able to be aware and look around, and I could tell my team dynamic was shifting, and I knew I was kind of sucking the life out of them. And so what I started to do was read a ton of books. I got on Twitter. There may be some people out there that don't like Twitter, but let me tell you, well, it's X now, but that's where I found my people, because everyone in there loved teaching, loved learning, and needed to find people just like them. And so you don't have to be in the same little school or city to find inspiration. And they weren't talking badly about anybody. There were challenges, but it was more like, what are some ideas to work around this? Or I want to work longer and harder, and I want to think about this after hours. And it was just a positive environment. All my questions were answered. My team was able to take a breath. And so my mentor became this virtual world. And so when I think about how you and I met, Josh, I walked up to you and I said, hey, do you want to guest on your podcast? I'm standing right here and I'm not busy right now. And you're like, yeah, come on. And so I say that to share, go out and meet other educators, whether it's at a conference or it's online, some social forum. There are people out there to inspire you, who become your mentor, who teach you the next thing. And before you know it, people are asking you things and you're now like, whoa, I'm that mentor. And so after my teaching, I thought that's all I ever wanted to be. And I realized people keep asking me how I figured things out, or who taught you that, or where did you get this piece of information? And I thought, well, maybe I can help them. I'll become the mentor. I'll become this person to help them flesh out their goals. And what would this look like day to day? And so I had an opportunity to become a coach, but it was for a nonprofit called the New Teacher Project. So that was cool because I had never heard of it. And I became an instructional coach only for new teachers. So they could be teaching kindergarten all the way up to seniors in high school. And you might think to yourself, well, how would you possibly know everything you need to know? You don't. All I do know, though, is quality instruction. I know how to design a lesson. I know how to manage a classroom. I know how to engage students. I know how to empower them with some ownership. And so the teacher became the curriculum guru, but I became the how to execute it guru. And we are a perfect pair. And I became so addicted to helping other people find out, what is your teaching persona? What is your believability about who a teacher is in a kid's life? What environment do you want to create for them? How do you track your own goals besides what the state or the district tells you? And so when it was time to start my own family, I thought, I'm really boxed in here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I want to help other people. what if this transition in my personal life creates a transition in my professional life? And that's where Always a Lesson came to be. It was just a blog talking about what I did, and hopefully someone could learn something from me. And if no one read it, who cared? It was like this great outlet for me. That turned to a website, that then turned to a podcast, that then turned to downloadable printables, to which someone said, can you just put it in one place like a book? And I thought, a book? I'm not an author, I'm just a teacher. And very quickly they said, just how you talk, just put that in book form and tell us all the things. And so that's kind of a roadmap of how authentically, step by step, it unraveled. I never really thought I'd be where I am, but I was open to what it meant. I said yes to new opportunities, whether they worked or didn't work. And I just found really good people along the way to push me or guide me or show me. And I think that's the lesson, always a lesson for anyone listening, is who is around you who can help you get to the next step. And don't be afraid to just say, hey, and ask a question or watch them or think about, what do I dream for myself? All of us have different talents and gifts, and it's our duty to figure out what it is and then bring it to a better, higher place.
The wonderful statement, I'm just a teacher.
I know. I don't know why I say that, and I get mad when people say it too. But it's weird when someone says your impact and you're thinking, but my duty's so small. That's, I guess, what I mean. Like, I'm just one fraction of your whole picture.
Totally.
But thank you for catching me on that.
No, I think it's one of those statements that we hear often from teachers, and it's the biggest roadblock for doing something amazing. Think of all of the opportunities and things that you've done because you've pushed past that statement. You're not just a teacher. And so anyone that's listening right now needs to understand that they have influence and they have something that's needed in the world of education, in addition to the fact that they're impacting the lives of so many folks every single day. So let's talk about what you witnessed in the classroom as a coach. Okay. So, you know, when you're jumping into all these different classrooms, what's one of the most common instructional habits you see that actually gets in the way of student learning?
I think starting at the wrong place. This is what I discovered. So I knew what great teaching was. I knew what some of the best practices were, and I was going in and I was helping. But people want to start where they want to start. And principals want you to work on what they want you to work on. And nothing's wrong with either one of those. But sometimes, and most times, it's not the root of the problem. So we're fixing, band-aiding. We're working on all these things. We're really focused and we're not seeing the results. And this is how burnout happens, because you're like, I'm spending so much time working on this thing and I'm not seeing it come to fruition. Well, that's because there's something underlying. That's the problem. And usually it goes to lesson design. So I get asked to come in, help with behavior management. We create all these systems and protocols, and then I leave and everything falls apart. Well, it's because it's not part of how you plan. And so if it's not how you plan, you're just not going to magically execute it live in front of kids. And so that's what helped me realize that there are 4 areas that teachers can work on, but there is an order. Like, there is this hierarchy, and I call them bricks, because if you don't fix them in order, it's not going to be strong enough to see it. And so lesson design often is that base. It's the root of everything. I'm not talking about a lesson plan, because you can use any template you want, but it's about the forethought. What kinds of questions are you asking? Who are you asking them of? What ideal answers are you looking for? How are you circulating? Who's partnered together? I mean, just the details. And the pushback there is we don't have enough time to plan to that detail. Well, initially, like when you're learning to write a lesson plan in college, it takes forever because you're just not used to it. But once you've decided how you want to operate your room, how you want to be in your room, then it allows you to rinse and repeat. So yeah, in the beginning, to figure out all the details, it takes time, but it allows you, that thoroughness allows you to be more present in the moment because you figured it out behind the scenes. And then when it comes to managing, well, we've been so proactive in our lesson plan because we're preventing misbehaviors because we've really been thoughtful of what's happening, but we prevent misunderstandings because we've built our content in which students can't get too confused and too lost. So then it's easier to manage what's happening, which then makes it easier to have more fun when it comes to engagement because of everything that's put in place. And then you give them ownership in the engagement. So they just come alive and they feel like this is my space too. And I want to treat it with respect and I want to respond thoughtfully. And that's when you walk into a classroom, you're like, whoa, this is different. This feels amazing. These kids are going places, but it started in lesson design. I don't care if you're a 20-year veteran. So I think what I've noticed through coaching is to be honest with ourselves about where there's little cracks, because maybe we're not consistent, and fix those up, because you probably know what to do. It's just a matter of doing it every day. And then watching how the kids react and adjust to them, because every group is different. We know that, even though we've been teaching a long time, someone can throw you for a loop, depending on their behavior or what's going on with them. But I would say overall, these coaches, now I get to work with coaches. Before I was working with teachers, I got to see the data prove that this method of sequential attack is what helps everybody achieve. The teacher gets better. We call it teacher proficiency, and students get better. That's the student achievement.
Okay, so if someone's listening, they're like, okay, I don't really have lesson design constructed in my everyday practice. Mm-hmm. It seems like that's just one more thing I have to do. And now I'm overwhelmed. Yeah. What's maybe a first small change that they can make that's actually going to help them right away?
Okay, so think of a matrix. It's got 4 boxes. You want to be in the upper right quadrant. That means the meaning of the lesson is good, like it's grade level content. Hopefully you're already doing that. But then you also want to go up in value. You have to connect it to kids. So if you're able to teach grade level content and make it make sense or make them want to listen to you, now you already have the basis for them to engage and for you to dig in deep and for it to go well. So I would just think about that first. After a while, then you can start nitpicking. I could have used it longer here. I could have used another example here, and kind of figure your way little by little. I say improvement is one small step. And so anytime I do anything in education, afterwards I say, what am I proud of? What do I want to try different next time? And it could be just a 1% difference. I'm not asking you to overhaul, but if you have that mindset, then it just naturally gets better over time. And that's not overwhelming. That's just part of how you operate.
So do you see a difference between new teachers and veteran teachers as far as that mindset?
I think I see it more in a new teacher who doesn't know any different of how to operate. I think a veteran teacher feels like I've earned my stripes to not have to work hard enough. And I feel like I can rinse and repeat without making adjustments. And I'm just burnt out from having to work that hard. And so I think for them, it's finding something that makes them excited again. So I'll say, what's your personal goal? Oh, I really want to get good at like a Socratic seminar. I've never done it. I've heard about it. I thought it was cool. Great. Well, I know I'm attacking it from the lesson design part because I'm getting them to the root, but they're thinking, I get to do something I want to do. And so really getting to know the person. It's like, I wish I could tell you this is how it goes, but it's different for everybody. And so no one's going to stick with it if they're not motivated. Think about a diet. You only stay on it for so long. So until you reach that person of who you want to become and how are we going to do this together, it will stagnate. So finding out who they are and what they want to be is key.
Yeah, finding that value piece, right? What motivates them, what they're passionate about. I think that's huge, regardless of if they're a first-year teacher or, like you said, a veteran 20-year teacher. So You had touched on burnout, and obviously, I know the work that you're doing. You're trying to construct longevity for every teacher, especially in their classroom and with instruction. So, what does that look like as far as putting some things in place for them that's going to help them so that they're not feeling overwhelmed? They're not feeling that extreme stress, or they're feeling like, this is not sustainable. I can't do this for 5 more years, 10 years, 20 years, right? So what are some things that you're talking about with our teachers as far as behind the scenes, what they can do to help themselves?
So I'll give you like a 3-step model here. So you want to think about naming what you're feeling. Is it overwhelm? Is it anger? Is it sadness? Like, where is it coming from? The second piece is understanding why you're feeling that way. So if you have a new curriculum, you're overwhelmed because you don't understand it yet. So you're spending so much brain power just downloading it and processing it. And so there's little energy left to go and do it. Or something similar, understanding why it's happening to you helps someone else help you. Because just saying, I'm overwhelmed, we have this new curriculum, like I don't really know where to go with that. And then the third part is deciding what you're in control of. Like, you can't not use the curriculum. That's what your state or district said. So what do you have control of in the moment? You read the next lesson. Then maybe we talk to a buddy about it. Then maybe we think about what would make this fun for kids. Like, it's all about bite-size motions to get out of it. The problem comes when you have multiple things overwhelming you, which is what's happening and usually what leads to burnout. So I'll give you an example. I was asked to go up to 5th grade and teach, and I knew that wasn't my strength in terms of kids. They had a humor I didn't get. It was definitely a little smelly after PE and recess, and I was like, I don't know about that. But my principal said, it's a really rough group. We need your leadership. Come put systems in place. And I felt honored, and I thought, I have to do this to be in my principal's good graces. And it's a challenge. I did 3rd. I knew 3rd. And I didn't know 5th. So I get there and I'm in charge of science. And it's the end of grade test is so hard. It's all vocabulary, but it's not like, what does this word mean? You have to apply it in a situation. So that's a whole nother skill level. So our hands were full. And the principal was down every day with misbehaved kids, or like, why are you guys not have enough stations? It was a 3-ring circus. I was physically exhausted. I was learning new curriculum, trying to make 82 groups to work through it with. It was not sustainable. And I just kept saying, as long as I'm helping a child every day, and as long as I'm pushing myself to be better, that's all I can ask. So we made it through the year. One teacher ended up quitting from the team. Another one left teaching altogether. Like, it was bad. Our principal came up and said, y'all did it. We got them where they needed to be. And I had such a sigh of relief. I'd never knew I was going to make that. And she said, what do you need? I said, I can't do this again, or I will leave education altogether. And I was just honest. I was blunt. Like, save me, please, was what I was saying. And she said, okay, well, if I could put you in any grade, what would it be? And it can't be 3rd, because she knew that was my comfort zone. And I just thought, God, anything but a testing grade, because that was the anxiety every day of like, this scores. So I said 2nd grade. I had the best year. It was like, remember how to love teaching. The curriculum was cute and fun, and the kids were just great, and the pressure was off about the scores. I mean, we're still helping them, but it's not like as intense. And that saved my whole career, because I advocated for what I needed. And so if you're able to name it and you're able to know why it's happening to you, go tell somebody, because there might be something they can do to take something off your plate, or to partner you with somebody, or help you make it through, and then maybe make an adjustment like I did to just take a breather. But no one knows unless you say something.
Well, on the flip side, if you're a leader, you need to make sure that you're asking those important questions too, to make sure that the teachers are giving some space to, be truthful and advocate for themselves.
Right.
And I think a lot of times that's a missing component. And thankfully, you had an awesome leader to listen to you and do something about it.
I did. She was a blessing. She asked us when she came on board, who do you want to become and how can I be part of your story? And I was like, no one has ever asked me that ever. I said, I'm not prepared. You had to give me some time to think of something. And I said, well, I think I want to go into leadership. And she said, what kind? I was like, what are my options? I don't even know. And she said, do you want to come shadow me for a day? And I was like, well, great. So she got me a sub. I show up in her office, 7:45 in the morning. And she showed me this list. She's like, I'm going to show you all the different things I do. Obviously, it doesn't happen every day, but I just want you to kind of see. And I thought, well, this is awesome. This is a preview of like, will this be for me? Well, within 5 minutes, an angry parent ran in. Then there's this food fight at breakfast. And she looked at me and she said, do you want to wait on me or do you want to reschedule? And I said, I'm good. Like, this was my answer. I just want to be in classrooms. And so that guided me to coaching is the way I want to lead. I can't go anything above because of all the other things. And I commend her to this day. I said, you are the one who helped me see who I was going to be, because I realized what was important to me, and getting close to the classroom was it. And it was because you were transparent and willing to help me and ask me what my goals were. So leaders who are listening, I ask you to just know your people and be willing to say what's on your mind. How can I help? Even if there's nothing you can do, like I'm like going back to the curriculum example, like we can't change that, but what we do have options to help make this smoother. Do you want an instructional coach to come in and model something for you? Do you need me to come work with a tricky kid? Like, there are other ways in which to help. And I think the greatest leaders I have had are those who just say, let's figure it out together versus you go do this.
No, I love that example. We had touched on your book, and I would like to dive in a little bit more. And I know in the bonus episode, we touched on it too. For folks, I want you to go back and listen to that. But Teacher Essentials for Classroom and Career Success. So we just talked through the book. I know you had people asking you for this resource before it was even out in the world. So that's awesome. So I know it's making a huge impact, but I'd love for the listeners to just hear about this wonderful resource.
Okay. So when I'm very type A, so I write everything down. So when I first started teaching, I put everything on note cards. Every student teacher I had, I made them read the note cards. Like, this is gold, this is wisdom that someone shared with me. Please read it. And that's when someone said, can you just put it in a Word doc and I can share it? So I did. And then every person I mentored or coached, and then all the leaders I had helped shape how I think we can attack education. And allowed me to play around with different ideas I had by going into the classrooms and let me see if my theory is correct. And that's where I found the brick system of, lesson design, classroom management, student engagement, student ownership, and that the order mattered. And when you worked out order, that's when you got exhausted from not seeing anything. And I think when I started working with schools with the book, they were like, how can I have more examples? So I went back to the manuscript and I gave very specific stories, and I threw in a place for people to work. Like, here's kind of a situation, a scenario. How would you respond? And then I shared what I did or shared what worked or what I shouldn't have done. And it's a book that makes you think, but also it's a roadmap in which a new person, a new teacher would just start reading from the beginning to the end and follow everything through. But someone who's had some time, you go back and you read sections and you're like, that's the piece, the one tiny piece that was missing. And then when you're leading other people, there's questions at the back that's, allows you to go through each chapter and really be thoughtful. I even have printables to help you bring things to life. Like, we don't need to recreate the wheel. Here's the resources I literally used. And it allows you to guide the discussion and make this come to life. So when people do their book studies, it's about where are we beginning and where are we trying to get to go. I lead this mastermind with other instructional leaders, and they're bringing it into their schools and saying, we all know this, get back to the basics. No technology is going to fix it. No curriculum is going to fix it. Not one person. It's all of us together. And so we're really seeing some momentum with it. And I'm very excited for what's to come with it. So it's called Teacher Essentials, meaning those 4 bricks are the essentials. If we can get those right, we're going to be in a really good place. It doesn't mean we can't have the flair and the fireworks, but the essentials come first.
Oh, I love it. All right. So let's also talk about another project that you discussed just slightly at the beginning of the conversation, which is your podcast. So Empowering Educators Podcast. Will you just let folks know why they need to tune in and push that beautiful subscribe button?
Yeah. Well, folks didn't have time to read my blog, sadly. I told you I didn't care if they read it. And someone said, can you just talk, do a podcast thing? I'm like, what is a podcast? Never heard of it. And so I just figured out how to do it, and I pushed play, and it was imperfect and awful in the beginning. But over time, I realized how to share a nugget. And so kind of how I do my show now is I'm sharing a story, but there's always a takeaway, and then I give you homework. I want you to go do something, because we go to these conferences and we just listen all day long. We get on our podcast app and we go through all these podcasts, but nothing about what we do changes. And then we're frustrated. I'm not getting stronger. I'm not more effective. I'm not who I wanted to be. But you have so much information inside. And so I really try and focus on letting it out one by one. From my story, I like small actions. So every episode is what are you going to do with it? Here's some options. And I bring on guests, especially during a summer series, but I also do it every 5 episodes because 1, you might get sick of me. But 2, like I said, my journey started with knowing people and elevating myself because of who I surrounded myself with. And so I want you to know these people too. And as I find them and their new friends, it's I want you to see what this person is doing and what it looks like for them and what could you pull from their experience to get better. And then, by the way, go make a relationship of your own and build and do something great together. And so that is the whole point. It's empowering educators. I want us to stay. My principal, a long time, different principal said, the good ones always leave. And I knew she meant, they go up in leadership or they go out and do something different. But I just truly feel like if we can keep the good ones here, then everything will be so much better for kids. And it doesn't mean we're putting a cap on anyone's capability or potential. It just means we are cultivating that potential within. And I really believe that this profession, it will be in a good place if we could all do that.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure that the book link is in the show notes in addition to the podcast. So I want folks to check out both. And then Gretchen, you did a beautiful job of allowing me to segue into the next thing, which is the action step, right? So they're listening to your wisdom. So let's talk about that for our aspiring or new leaders or our veteran leaders. If there's something they can do tomorrow or next week to enhance their leadership journey, what would you recommend?
Yeah. Who do you want to be? Spend some time being honest with yourself. Like, I'm a little more negative than I thought I would be, or I'm not as present and around the building as I want to be. So decide who you want to be. And then two, who is somebody who is who you want to be that you can connect with? So you think about yourself, but then think about how you can pair yourself up with somebody else. And to me, that's enough of a step to get started.
Well, you had talked about building through social media to find your people, to find your community. And so I definitely want folks to do that with you. I've been flashing your website as our conversation has been going for those who are watching on YouTube, but I would love for you to share about your website and how people can connect with you on social media, especially with our folks that are on the podcast platforms.
Okay, great. So alwaysalesson.com. That is my home. It's everything I believe. There's a lesson happening all around you. If you just pay attention and you apply that message, you'll see the blog, you'll see the podcast, you'll see t-shirts, you'll see downloadables. I mean, everything is there. You can email me, Gretchen@alwaysalesson.com. My hope is that I can gift something to you in terms of knowledge, wisdom, skill, someone else I know. I just believe that we're in this together. We're already colleagues, so don't be shy. Reach out to me. Tell me your problem. Let's talk it through, and let's work together.
For sure. And Gretchen is so kind and approachable. So if you have any questions, if there's something that you want to reach out for her services, she's a ball of energy and will definitely respond. So we'll make sure all those links, again, are in the show notes, or if you head over to joshstamper.com, we have a page specifically for this episode and with Gretchen. So all that information is there for you. And with that, Gretchen, it was such a surprise, a joyful surprise to meet you in person at the NCMLE conference, and then just getting to know you about your work. You're doing some amazing things. So thank you so much for being on Aspire to Lead. I
appreciate it so much, Josh. And this is the beginning. We'll get you on the podcast nest and continue the conversation.
Oh, I can't wait.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. Explore more podcasts at www.teachbetterpodcastnetwork.com. We'll see you on the next episode.